Well, it's part two of the conversation around agro-economy in Nigeria. As I said, we had to lobby for this one. In case you don't understand that joke, you might want to catch up on yesterday's edition. So, the agricultural subsector, or sector as the case may be, is huge, really, but it can be better. Currently doing 25% to the nation's GDP, even more than the industries, but less than the services sector. But there are a lot of challenges that persist, and we barely scratched the surface yesterday. So we thought to continue on this conversation. As you can see, we have a full panel on this one. It's food after all. It's important to all of us. So joining us to do justice to this topic, to identify the challenges and the solution, we have Mr. Debo Akonde, Head of Agribusiness for Sub-Saharan Africa at the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, that's ITA. He's also the Executive Advisor on Agribusiness to the Governor of Oyo State. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Akonde. We also have with us Dr. Onalo Akpa, who is the Director General, Poultry Association of Nigeria, making a comeback in 2 days. Dr. Shoaibu Adamu is also coming back on this program. Is an agronomist, crop specialist, head of agriculture, Abuja Municipal Area Council, Abuja, joins us from our Abuja studio. Both gentlemen, thank you for joining us. And via Zoom as well is African farmer Magaji, who's the founder Agribusiness NG. Gentlemen, it's great to have you on the program. Let's get right into it. I hope we have enough time to do justice to the conversation. I'd like to begin with Dr. Akpa. This is something that made the front page. I just wanted to bounce it off you before we get into the other issues. And it's about Nigeria losing over 2 million birds in 391 farms as a result of flu. Now, this made its way to the front page of the Daily Trust. I just wanted to hear from you on this one. How big a challenge is this?
Well, thank you, my brother. Good morning. It is not the news that the country is bedeviled with an outbreak of avian influenza. Traditionally, during the Harmattan dry season, when we have a lot of wild bird crossing from one country or continent to the other, there are normally outbreak of avian influenza on farms. And that is exactly what has happened today, and it's not very peculiar to Nigeria alone. There are widespread worldwide outbreak of avian influenza. It has become a phenomenon. It has become an endemic disease that has been happening to poultry in the world over. And it is also what has happened to Nigeria this season. Normally during the Harmattan season, we normally have outbreak of this particular disease called avian influenza, and that is exactly what you have seen. And what we do when there is the closer to the rainy season and we come into the dry season, we continue to advise our farmers that, look, beef up your biosecurity on the farms. As much as possible, try to prevent the influx of people onto your farm. Disinfect your materials, your equipment at all times, so that even if the wild bird comes and drop their droplets on your farm, or there is a cross-contamination from one farm to the other, the consequences will greatly be reduced. And that is exactly what you have seen. We continue to do continuous sensitization of our members to beef up and step up their biosecurity, because that is the only way. And this education is continuing from the level of the association at the national level, to the state level, to the zonal level. And unfortunately, there is a government policy that compensation is not going to be paid to farmers.
Just one question, a quick follow-up, Dr. Akpa, if you don't mind. How significantly will this loss impact supply of poultry products within the next how many months?
Well, I think it is impacting negatively on the supply of poultry products, especially those who are into egg production, the table egg production. And then, unfortunately, too, those that are into meat broiler productions are also being affected. But one thing is sure, for those whose farm has never been affected, what we've advised them to do is to step up their stocking capacity so that we might be able to meet the deficit that might likely come out of this disease outbreak that is closing up some farms. And especially the farms that are affected are the small-scale farms who in most cases do not adhere to biosecurity measures and then do not care so much. It is unfortunate. It is a great loss to our members, but we'll continue to educate them and sensitize them. And we believe as the education continues to get intensified and then losing their investment, farmers will be very conscious to step up their biosecurity, because that's the only way you can stop this outbreak.
Let me ask Dr. Akonde, since this is not a new problem, well, incidentally, we started this conversation with poultry, with the poultry space also yesterday. It's ironic that it's also made the front page of the news today. We've always known that every year we will have this kind of situation on our hands. Is this something that we could have gotten ahead of, Dr. Akonde, in terms of research, in terms of things to do to ensure that we don't have this kind of significant impact and we don't suffer the kind of loss that we've had to suffer?
Very much for having me, and good morning, everybody. I strongly believe that this is an avoidable issue, that we could probably have been able to overcome long time ago. Why did I say this? There are diverse national and international research institutes that focus on the issue of livestock research, on poultry, within this country that could have provide support, to the issue of that we have at hand. What I've seen, in my duty of work, is that there has continuously been a disconnect between practitioners and research, and we can't but marry both. If we continue to practice engage in our agricultural practices the way we are doing, without ensuring that we consult or work with people that have the expertise in the areas where we are having issues, what we are seeing now is what we'll continue to see. Organizations like International Livestock Research Institute here in Ibadan, that has been supporting the issue of livestock across the whole of Africa, and has helped in supporting many of these issues that we are raising today in different countries in Africa. Why have we not engaged them, to work on this particular issue? Beyond even the ILRI that I've just mentioned, there are probably also one or two other national research institutes also. That's their responsibility, to ensure that whenever we have issues at hand, research are being conducted in that particular area to overcome the issue. And maybe we even have solution in terms of research that is just sitting down as a research document somewhere that has not been consulted, for this particular purpose. So I think it's an avoidable issue that will have been overcome if a practitioner is married with research.
Mr. Mogaji, do you agree with him? And not just about poultry now, but about agricultural, the agricultural space in general. We'll come to the business of it, the economy of it, in a bit. But the practice is the first stop here in the first place. So on the one hand, we have the challenge of losses perennial that's been happening every year. And now Dr. Akonde is saying that it's something that we could have avoided because we need to bridge practice with research. What in your opinion is the gap, Mr. Mogaji?
Well, I'm totally in support of what Dr. Adeboale said. It's totally avoidable. And I'm happy the president of the Poultry Association is there. I will challenge him, and I will not mince words. The association has the capacity to influence the members. How many members, as much as there's disconnect between research and practitioners, there's also disconnect between association members and the small scale holders. So, so bottom line, the association, I would hold the association responsible for what we have now. Because the sensitization, they have that umbrella capacity, they have that responsibility, but there's a disconnect. Almost all the association is politicized now. If the association is doing the work, and putting pressure on government or lobbying government or pallying government, whatever word we want to say, we won't be having this all year round. The poultry sector has been badly hit. Feed is too high. So even if the small-scale farmer wants to adhere to best practices, he cannot. He's busy trying to raise funding. So bottom line is, how do you start poultry in Nigeria? Who regulates? How many poultry farmers have started in the last 5 years undocumented? There's no standard for anybody to follow. So bottom line is, it starts with the Poultry Association of Nigeria, bringing the state chapters together and ensuring that they do what their members are paying them or aligning with them to do. Enough of government. Government is overburdened right now. Association needs to step up and engage cooperatives to make sure things happen. We can't depend on government with oil going up and everything. We have to take responsibility ourselves as practitioners. Thank you. I stop for now.
Dr. Akpa, you want to respond very quickly?
I want to respond from what the first speaker, Dr. Debo, said, that there is a disconnect between the practitioners and then the research institutes. I will completely debunk this, because by Tuesday, Wednesday last week, I was in Ibadan, and I was with Dr. Tunde Amole, who is the country representative of the International Livestock Research Institute. And we had a lot of meetings and deliberations. And like yesterday when I spoke, when somebody spoke about the alternative raw material to maize and others, I spoke about cassava peel. I had a lot of discussions with Dr. Tunde Amole, and what took me there is to see that how can we pick up from the research selves of what they have done and then bringing it into the sector. And I told you, it is not a new thing. Now people have been involved, but I understood in the last 2 weeks that they've scaled up the research on cassava peel, and that took me a whole week to Ibadan. And that we've been able to do. And then we continue to disseminate this to our people, especially to the feed millers and those who are also involved in toll milling, apart from the commercial feed millers, to toll milling, and then other people who are also doing research in the poultry sector. We are not resting on our oars. We are doing the best we could do. And then the second thing is this, the issue of disease outbreak. The association has a limitation in self-regulation. Limitation in self-regulation in the sense that as practitioners and as people who have been in the industry for years, we know the onions. We know what it is. Nobody puts his money, and we want his money, his investment destroyed. So as much as possible, we try to do the best we can do to self-regulate, and above all, the government does the regulation. The rule establishing poultry farm does not lie within the association. The rule establishing poultry farm lies within the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, especially the Federal Department of Livestock, and then veterinary services. Secondly, the association too is doing so much. Like since Monday up till last night, I've been able to meet with 4 of my state chairpersons. I met with the chairman of the Kaduna State chapter of the Poultry Association of Nigeria on Monday with 4 hours meeting. On Tuesday, I met with the FCT chairperson. Yesterday, up till 9 p.m., I was with the Ogun State chapter chairperson. So this allegation or assumption, rather, that the association is not very cohesive, to me, I disagree completely with this. You don't just assume. You need to. By 9 p.m., I was still in a meeting with Mr. Idowu Ashenugad, who is my chairperson for the Ogun State chapter of the Poultry Association of Nigeria. And the essence of the meeting is that how do we come together? How do we harness our resources? How do we disseminate? How do we help our small-scale farmers? The small-scale farmers, one thing we must understand is that this association is not, there's no a regulation, there's no law that binds, that makes every member, every poultry producer to become a member. It's voluntary. In most cases, a lot of people, it is when they have problem, they come to the association. I have a problem. How do you help me? But payment of subscription, belonging to even participate in dialogue, in educating ourselves, most of them, you call for meeting, they don't come. So I can hardly go to anybody's house. Neither my state chairperson in the states will go to people's house to force them to come out. But as much as we can do, as people who wants to put ourselves together, or who have put ourselves together to see that there is a conducive government, conducive production environment, we are doing it. There are always constant dialogue with the Federal Minister of Agriculture, the Federal Minister of Industry, Trade and Commerce, and the essence of doing this thing is that how can we bridge the private and then the public sector relationship, and to ensuring that we have one of the best and viral poultry industry in Nigeria. And to the best of our knowledge, we are doing that. The issue
well, let's bring in Dr. Adamu now.
Outbreak.
Yeah, just a moment. Let's bring in... Okay, you can land on that one, so we can also bring in Dr. Adamu. You can just make that point.
The issue of avian influenza outbreak is beyond what any research institute can do. It's the government. We, like the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, well, they could do research. The research you could do, if anybody says we have solutions for migrating birds not to pass through the skies of Nigeria to other continents or otherwise, then we are ready to embrace this, and we are ready to work with it. But to the best of our knowledge, we are doing the sensitization, and the sensitizations from the national level that I am, to the zonal level, to the state level, to the local government level. This association is well established, and our people are doing the best they can do to see that we educate our members, because like I always say, I cannot put my money into an investment and I will watch that investment run down. So no farmer will want to put his money into an investment and he will want to see his birds dying because he doesn't love himself. No, that does not arise at all.
Well, Dr. Adamu, so this conversation is very important, and I think it points to the need for more synergy, either with researchers, with those who make policies that affect agriculture or the agribusiness in Nigeria, just so that everybody is on the same page. But for farmers, because you also represent a bloc in that agricultural sector, to what extent do you have collaboration perhaps with researchers, in this case, with the business side of things? Because I know that there's a business angle, okay? There's a research angle, there's also the business angle, and the policy angle. To what extent are you connected? Because we need to identify that before we now say, okay, this is a solution we need to profile.
Thank you very much, and good morning, Nigerians. Actually, we work with research institutions. Like where I work, I have been in collaboration with the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture since the year 2000. That's about more than 20 years ago. And a lot of activities have been done with them. And for your information, the IITA has a substation in Abuja, and we have announced a lot of activities of the institute. And there's even an MOU between the FCT government and IITA. And even with the Institute for Agricultural Research at Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, we collaborate. So most of our inputs that the farmers use have been obtained from this research institute. Sometimes even like the crops, when you go to some of the seed companies, you might not get the best. And because like in the IITA, they have the business aspects where they produce a lot of improved seeds, and we get them for farmers so that they don't plant what is not, that will not give them the yield potentials. And also the VOM, Veterinary Research Institute, like all those of them who are into the livestock and the poultry, we have also some collaboration. And as a local government, at the tier of government, we work also hand in hand with the Secretariat of Agriculture. Like in the state, they call it Ministry of Agriculture. In the FCT, we call it the Secretariat. So we work with them, and we have the poultry subsector, and a lot of trainings have been going on for them. Even non-governmental organizations come to give them lectures, and you see the Secretariat to be, collaborating with the area councils where are the farmers within the jurisdiction. We want to train so we want to train this and that. So there are a lot of things that are going on. And like what the discussion that has been going on, to some extent, I will even blame the practitioners. Because for any business that you want to go in, that you want to put your money, you have to make sure that you do a lot of studies. Like the president of the Poultry Association of Nigeria has said, you have to take some take on, especially this period, that this avian influenza used to come. As a poultry farmer, you have to do a lot of activities ready for this kind of period to make sure that when these things come, your farm is not affected. So farmers they have to do a lot of work to avoid. And I believe with my colleagues who said it's an avoidable incident, though I pity the farmers that have lost their birds.
Right.
And again, we work with the Fadama, also the Fadama groups, and we collaborate with them. Like I said, the local government just is a complementary part of the government as far as extension system is concerned, because the agricultural development projects, they handle extension service. In the local government, area council in the FCT, we also collaborate with the ADPs, and we do a lot of work with the farmers. So,
okay.
As I said yesterday, where I head, we have a very robust system where all the 12 political wards, we have the leaders of the farmers. We call them Sariki Nomas. And they have their own association. They have their chairman, they have their secretary, the treasurer. So
okay, Dr. Adam, it's interesting to hear what's happening in your own side. But let me take this back to Dr. Akode. I'd like us to maybe disaggregate the issues. So Dr. Akpa believes that, well, there's collaboration. He said he's had to travel even to Ibadan to get some collaboration with researchers and all of that. So I'd like you to perhaps disaggregate it. When you said that there's a challenge in terms of collaboration, are you talking about, the big-time players, the medium-sized ones, or the ones that just spring up, they have like a little expanse of land and they go into it? What do you mean exactly by that lack of collaboration between practitioners and researchers? And maybe does this even extend to policymakers as well and the business side of things?
Well, thank you very much. I think the first thing to say is that Dr. Akpa, the chairman of the Poultry Association, should understand that my point is not to cast aspersion on the association itself. When I made a statement, I'm making reference to practitioners. I didn't make reference to the association precisely. So I do understand the effort that been made by him. I've been a friend of the association for quite a long time. I'm aware that Dr. Adamu mentioned yesterday the issue of aflatoxin and aflasafe. I led that project for Sub-Saharan Africa, where Dr. Adamu also worked with me, in FCT, to ensure that we reduce the problem of aflatoxin in maize, most particularly because of the poultry industry. And so, I mean, I know poultry industry from that perspective. I'm a poultry association from that perspective. But my point here is that, and these also move across beyond even poultry, is that there are so many researches that has been done and that are in place within diverse research institutes. Having worked with these research institutes, in Africa and working across the whole of Africa, I have seen so many of these opportunities that could be annexed, by diverse practitioners to the use.
Give us an example.
Benefit in different.
Just so we're specific, can you give us an example to broaden this?
So I will precisely move to probably a crop like a soya beans. I've heard that the production of soya beans in Nigeria, of course, is now meeting up with the expected demand, while IITA has worked on a product that is referred to as Nodumax, which can help to increase, the quantity of the of soya beans within a very short space of time. I haven't seen many of the private organizations that are engaging in the issue of soya beans production, even from those that are processing that will have engaged in backward integration, coming to the institute and requesting, to make use of this particular product that we are making reference to. And mind you, IITA is not a profit-making organization. I can rightly tell you officially that IITA being based in Ibadan for close to over 50-something years, it is only 3 or 4 years ago that the Oyo State government signed an MOU with IITA, to engage them as the technical lead for many of the things that they are doing within the state. And that is even a state government, for crying out loud. How many of these do we have on shelf, as a research institute beyond even IITA? And many people don't probably know that IITA is under a particular body called the CGI Center. And the CGI Center, the CGI have more than 14 centers under it. ILRI that was mentioned earlier by the chairman of the Poultry Association of Nigeria is one of the research institutes under the CG Center. It's also based in Ibadan. Africa Rice, who have a lead on the issue of production of rice across the whole of Africa, is based in Ibadan within the same institute. And diverse other research institutes like that as well. How many of those researches that has come from them has been annexed, by practitioners to their own advantage? I haven't seen that much. The best that IITA can do as a research institute is to do research and make available some of those research outcome, but they can't enforce it, on private practitioners to use. I am happy that you disaggregated, the players across the agricultural value chain to micro, small, medium, and large enterprises. And this is one of the fundamental problems that we have that need to be looked into. And I hope that maybe our discussion is going to get to that area as we move further. Most times we assume that we have what we refer to as the small or medium enterprises in agriculture. I've just read a Faith Foundation report, I think 2021, and that is clearly depicted what is going on in the ag sector today. More than 71% of what we call businesses, across board, and this applies to agriculture as well, are micro enterprises. Around just 1% are large enterprises, and what we have are small and medium enterprises are probably in the minority. The fact remains that you can't engage micro enterprise the way they are currently now, and expect them to have the capacity to harness what is currently in place. If we have association, that they belong to, and I'm happy that the African farmer mentioned that earlier, that when we said we have associations, and most of these value chains, we either have the maize association or we have the cassava growers association. How functional are they? In reality,
perhaps that also speaks to a challenge which my colleague referenced earlier. African farmer Mogaji, there is agriculture, and most of the time we look at the sustenance part of it. That's why most of the people who are farmers, small farmers, smallholder farmers, they just have a small farm here, a small farm there, doing a little agriculture here, poultry here, crop here, cassava here, gari here, palm oil here, and all of that. So on the one hand is the practice of agriculture. On the other hand is agribusiness. And there seems to be a kind of distance between the business of it and the practice of it in the education of it. How do you think, if you agree, how do you think we should bridge this gap?
Well, first and foremost, I may be wrong, but I'm in the field. And I've put in 34 years of my life doing nothing else apart from this. Now, I personally don't believe that the rural farmer doesn't understand agribusiness. Anybody that is 55 and above, their fathers likely were farmers who started 1 acre, who was selling cocoa, who built a house, who built a bike, who bought a car, who expanded the farms, who was supporting the extended family. The rural farmers understand agribusiness. It is education and our exposure that is trying to, play little on their knowledge. They understand the business. When we bring money into agriculture, we make all the mistakes they've made. I agree there's a place to upgrade knowledge, technology, and co. But it is not fair on the rural farmers to say that they don't understand agribusiness. But that's what everybody says.
And the business. If they understand the business, Mr. Mogaji, how come we still have post-harvest losses in fruits and vegetables up to 50%? Last year, we hear it's about 51% to the tune of 3.5 trillion naira every year.
So the thing is, because they don't have any other livelihood, they still have to produce. We are the ones that ought to ensure that as we're coming in, many of us that try to produce, we have no business with production. Many of us ought to go into processing, logistics, the other value chain, but not production. We're having more losses because we're having more people come in, ignorant people come in, but mean well. So they go and compete with those rural farmers who their products are already is that we need more people to come into the value chain as against going into production. That is why we are having increasing post-harvest losses. Everybody is trying to produce. Name it. I've worked with bank MDs, EDs of insurance companies. All of them go and they lose quite a lot of money because they go into production as against going into the value chain. You bring in their knowledge, in the insurance and banking, bringing their business management into another value chain. That is the reason why Nigeria is where we are, not the rural farmers. They are there. Come rain, come shine. Government support or no intervention, they will farm. Can we have other Nigerians who are more exposed, who are well-traveled, who understand diplomacy? Can they pick other value chains as against compete with them? Because this is what happens. Now, when we compete with them,
pardon me, what are the other value chains available? I think it's important to mention. So there's a farming end of it, but apparently there are host other value chains. Can you mention them? I imagine a lot of people listening are wondering, which of them can I invest in?
So we have logistics. Logistics is huge. Logistics meaning moving vehicles. That you can move with the trucks from the north. You can move with buses. There's cold chain, which is even moving this farm produce in refrigerated reefers. This is not for the rural farmers. You also have the input, the seeds, the seedlings and co. That is also there. Storage. If you go to India, where I've been a couple of times, storage is mostly private sector or cooperatives led. There's storage. There's even processing, which is adding value at cottage level. In Zambuk in Gombe, take for instance, a basket of what we call the household tomato, 50 kg, will be sold for 300, 400 naira. And in Lagos is 150. Just setting up a small cottage ketchup in Zambuk village in Gombe would reduce all that. There's even services where we bring in our knowledge, branding services. As a brand expert, marketing expert, media, even media. There's media in agribusiness as a business. The value chain is huge. There's training, there's input, like you produce the equipment, fabrication. It's huge. Even aggregation. Some people, what we call middlemen, they are aggregators. So there's so much. The fashion industry, if you go to Nigeria Conservation Foundation around Aja area, buttons, you have seeds that can be refined, polished, just polishing, and they use it as, we call it eco-friendly buttons.
But Mr. Magaji, I've heard this conversation time and again, identifying these value chains, and I'm talking as far back as, 15, 20 years ago. So these things have been there. But let me take this to Dr. Akpa. Being a practitioner, especially in the poultry subsector, the price of egg these days, we know how much it is. I know some will say, it's not just eggs, it's across the whole board, but let's focus on that one. Perhaps we can then extrapolate. Is the price of egg today high because of that lack of value chain addition or the lack of presence in those value chains? Is that something you also experience in your subsector that you'd like to maybe expand on?
Well, thank you, my brother. Like I said yesterday, the price of egg, maybe because it used to be the cheapest source of protein, people are saying the price of egg is now too high. The summation of why the price of egg is high today is what I said yesterday, and let me repeat it in a nutshell. The prices of raw materials, some have gone over 300%. The devaluation of the naira that has made the cost of importing micro-ingredients so high, cost of the import duty, other taxes, and when you look at it, it's a factor of what is my production cost and what should be my selling price. And when you want to look at it from the economics of poultry, no farmer today that is operating at a surplus. I will tell you that no farmer is making money. Today, you see a price of egg going as much as, in some markets, 2,000 naira, in some places, 2,100. But I'll tell you that the farm gate price of most of the eggs produced by my members is not more than 1,600, 1,700. And as of now, there is what we call a glut. You see, because of the low processing power of the populace, a lot of people don't have money to buy egg because they consider egg and chicken today as luxury. Every person wants to go into grains, cereals that they can use to fill in their stomach, drink water on top of it. Nutritious food is what a lot of people are not going for now. So you discover that because a lot of people are producing and the processing power of people is low, our farmers even are crashing their prices to be able to sell so that they can feed the birds, because you can't keep the birds without feeding them. Whatever they produce is also used to feed them against the other day and subsequently. So the high cost of egg as of today, if it is beyond 1,000, if it is above 1,800, is not the doing of the farmer, because the farmer in most cases, apart from supplying outlets, don't have the time to start going into marketing. So there are people who comes to the farm gate, buy most of these things, take into the market, and then sell them. But if you want to compare
perhaps
what
that
you
also,
have as the price of egg
also
in the past
speaks to
and
the
today,
value chain
the high cost of
addition.
production.
Well, perhaps that also speaks to the value chain addition. Just 1 second, that African farmer Mogaji spoke about the other time.
Second.
Okay.
Just 1 second, I just want to add one thing.
Okay.
The cost of adding value to egg, like egg powder, like egg liquid, is heavy investment. This heavy investment, you need to do it in places whereby you can have collections of good quantity of eggs to be able to add this value addition. There's already somebody in Ondo State, in Akure, who has set up an egg powder machine. He's doing it. And then we're also discovering small-scale value additional equipment that farmers can put it on their farm. If you have a glut, you change, you
Dr. Akpa,
you process it into liquid,
I guess that's
it into powder.
That's another angle to the conversation, and let's hope your members are also listening and can learn a thing or two from this. Let me ask Dr. Akonde one question, and this is an issue I've raised over and over again because I fear for the future, especially in terms of food security. Most of the people who are on the fields, you all may agree or debunk this this information or this fact from my own end. I haven't done any research on it, but I can at least extrapolate from what I know that most of the people who are farmers are elderly. And one is wondering how we can solve the problem of food scarcity in the future, food security for the country, to get that done as the younger people grow older and many don't want to go to the farms. So, Dr. Akonde, you are working with a governor in Oyo State, with the governor in Oyo State, and you perhaps might be able to speak to the responsibility that states have in making agriculture, the practice of agriculture, appealing to young people so that they can take interest in it and produce for the country all across board in the coming years. There is a state in Nigeria called the food basket. I don't know how much food we're able to bring from that state, for instance. So can you speak to what state governments can do to ensure that across all value chains of all products, crop farming, animal farming, and all of that, we have food security in the country? What can states do?
Thank you very much for that question. And you don't need to have done a research to make that statement. It's factual. Although research has been done, we know that an average age of farmers, across board in Nigeria, and the same thing applies in most of the countries we've been to in Africa, above the age of 65 or more. And it is also well known, maybe with the exception of the likes of the African farmer, Magaji, and few others, that generation below them up until the age of 35 are not in agriculture. The best, they will probably be like Dr. Adamu and myself, probably engaging in research, and Dr. Adamu sitting as an administrator and all what have you. But realistically on the farm, we don't have too much of those generation engaging in agriculture. And that is a major problem. Major problem because when that generation that's currently engaging, the practitioners in agriculture fade away now, then it becomes a problem. Now, let me quickly give a calculation for you. Oyo State, as a state, is seated on a land around 28,000 square kilometers of land, bigger than the whole of the southeast of Nigeria combined. bigger than Rwanda as a country. When I did my analysis and I look at the issue of the smallholding and the current numbers of farmers that we have now, we can, and this land that we have in the state, over 70% of it they are arable. Of course, the area that has been cultivated is very minimal. If we use all the farmers that are in the record of the state, I don't think we can do more than 9% or 7 to 9% of the total land that we have in the state that we can cultivate. And that is where I have a little bit of issues with continuous focus on peasantry or subsistence form of agriculture alone, without considering what we refer to as commercial or industrial agriculture at this particular stage of life. Now,
I apologize. We don't have so much time. Please speak to the engaging young people in the space. So as to secure the future.
That is exactly where I'm going into. So now, if you want to fill that gap, if you want to engage in an agriculture that require innovation, you need to start doing what is referred to as agricultural education now at this particular stage of our life. Oyo State government, I can use this as an example, and I'm happy that some of the states within the country has also borrowed leave from what Oyo State government is doing. As a matter of fact, the government of Madagascar and that of the PRC came to understudy these same processes that we are adopting within the state, with what we call agricultural education program within the state at both secondary and post-university level. We have started engaging in training, not just in training, but training in agribusiness that looks at the current innovations, in agriculture, and to make them, the younger people, to see agriculture from a very different perspective, a strong mindset changing, and issue of, and also training them to engage, in terms of the practical aspect of agriculture.
And training them to engage. Strong. Pardon me, because of our time, I'd like to also take this to Dr. Adamu, but you've made some very important points. So, Dr. Adamu, recently the CBN governor, who's been very, very interested and involved in the agriculture sector, was reading out some of the interventions that the central bank has made. He talked about the Anchor Borrowers program, saying that, they've actually dispersed to 4.52 million smallholder farmers cultivating 21 commodities across the country to a tune of 975.61 billion naira. He's also talked about the commercial agriculture credit scheme and all of that. I'll ask you a two-edged question. How much has that impacted from where you sit on your practice, on what you do, the business of it? I'm talking about government intervention, because I recall African farmer earlier on saying, well, government has enough on their hands, so it's high time that the practitioners, as it were, came together and took the matter in their hands. So how much of government's interventions have actually impacted on your business? That's for Dr. Adamu. And what more can be done?
Thank you very much. I would also say that, like in the FCT, the farmers have not actually benefited from the anchor borrowers. We started, but along the line, it couldn't work. And we went into accelerated agricultural projects 2, and that is also maybe we'll be able to actualize that this year. And because of that,
the Anchor Borrowers program work for your farmers?
Yes,
pardon me, just to be clear, why didn't it work for your farmers? You said you accessed it a bit and then it stopped. Okay. What happened?
Yeah, actually, like at my own level, I was not handling it. So it was in the process. They couldn't, they started very late last year, and incidentally, the COVID-19 issue came in, and that is where it got stopped. From there, we have not, the FCT is very likely that maybe this year we're going to be part of it, and it's not coordinated by the area council. So I have very little to say about that. But what Dr. Akande has just said, I have a very case study in FCT where the government actually intervened and involved the youth in agriculture. I headed the program, we call it Community Empowerment Agricultural Initiative under the Millennium Development Goals. And we, in fact, presently, if you want to intervene in agriculture in the FCT, you have, and you want to really get the grassroots farmers, you have to go through these youths, and we call them Millennium Farmers. What we did is to engage the youths into agriculture is to make agriculture attractive. They reduce the drudgery related to agriculture. What we did was we engaged communities, we established community farms, and we provided all the input, including tractors. And only what the farmers were doing, we allowed them to do manual planting. But otherwise, no weeding, they use herbicides. And at the end of the harvest, we aggregated whatever they produced then, and we provided the market windows.
All right.
And in fact, even FCT, but in 2011-12, the buffer stock of FCT, especially from the maize, was provided by the youth of FCT. I could remember vividly that time. The maize they produced, the budget that was made for maize was about 32.6 million, and that was all, taken by the youths. And we provided a lot. And in fact, other states were even coming to have a case study in the FCT. And currently, we have them, and we're even on e-commerce, where we have the information that
we have to
buy
run
any
now.
produce now from
but
FCT.
Clearly, there's a lot more we can do, but we really have to close on this topic. This is in no way the end of it, but we'd like to thank you so much for the interventions made. Dr. Shuaibu Adamu is an agronomist, a crop specialist. He's also the head of agriculture, Abuja Municipal Area Council, Abuja. Right next to him in our Abuja studio, we've also had Dr. Onalo Akpa, who's the Director General, Poultry Association of Nigeria. Gentlemen, thank you so much. And joining us via Zoom, Dr. Debo Akonde, who's Head of Agribusiness for Sub-Saharan Africa at the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture and Executive Advisor on Agribusiness to the Governor of Oyo State, as well as Mr. African Farmer Magaji, the founder, Agribusiness NG. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure having you on the program. Well, this conversation isn't over, clearly, but we'll continue another day. But for now, we'll turn our attention to another matter. You don't want to miss this. Stay with us.
We are speaking to Chief Dele Momodu, who is a media icon, certainly, and a presidential aspirant. Thanks for joining us this morning. Should I just say Bob D? I'm even wondering how that will sound. President Bob D, right?
Well, it will sound very funky. Good morning, and how are you?
Okay, very well, thank you. Well, perhaps you want to take a bite at the conversation we had previously. I'm looking at some research documents, of course, it's your specialty as well, research. And I found that the very first policy of government in Nigeria in terms of agriculture was in 1937. And so many others have come over the years. And now we have one of the foremost ones we have today is the Anchor Borrowers Program. The Operation Feed the Nation program, for instance, evolved into Green Revolution, into DFRI, and so many other things like that. So I'm wondering, from the policy perspective, is it a problem of policy for us or a problem of sustainability, or what exactly is it? Or is it a challenge of capacity to deliver on our policies, especially in agriculture?
Well, it's a problem of meritocracy. You see, any country where you don't do things by merit, you're always going to have a lot of problems. Nigeria is a place where you can pick anybody, almost anybody, to be your Minister of Agriculture, and it's just there to warm the seat. I used to read that if you want to know if a fish is bad, smell the head. If the head is bad, then it's likely the whole body will be rotten. So when we begin to do things properly all over the world, and I've operated globally, what I see is that government pays a lot of attention to education and to the institutions of learning. That is why even during elections, you will see that a lot of the debates are operated on university campuses. So you have researchers all over Nigeria, but are they allowed to make input into what goes on in government? So when you have a government that pays attention to research and gives due respect to the people you can describe as the experts, then you will see how things will begin to move. It's not just in agriculture. It is in every facet of our daily life in Nigeria. We see it everywhere. We see the rot. So we need to clear out the rot by not making politics our priority. Leadership is about managing people and resources. But in Nigeria, we pay more attention to politics, and our politicians are more interested in elections, and they are not interested in the next generation. So when you talk about policies in education, in agriculture, in housing, in transport, and so on and so forth, in infrastructure, it's the same story over and over again. And that is why people like us have decided to throw our hearts in the ring to say, look, we must do it differently, because you cannot continue to do the same things repeatedly and expect a different result. It's not going to fly. Now you can see all the hulabaloo about elections. Nobody is talking issues. Nobody is talking about the fact that our students are home. Nobody is talking to HASU. Nobody is engaging our doctors. Nobody is engaging on the issue of the judiciary. You know, all the hanky-panky that you see everywhere. We must change our style of doing things, and it begins with changing the personnel. The dramatics personnel in Nigeria is so backward for a modern. I remember when I visited my governor, Godwin Obaseki in Edo State, he said it. He said, we require urgently a new leadership that we understand how to manage a modern life. But we are still back in the prehistoric age.
Well, Chief, but we'll come to that leadership recruitment process in a bit, but still saying for a second or two on that agricultural thing, there are those who believe that we did very well living off agriculture in the First Republic, and the regions had, you know, sizable, friendly competition among themselves. We had the granite pyramid in the north, we had the cocoa in the south, southwest, and the palm oil in the east, and all of that. As a researcher and someone who wants to lead the country, do you think Nigeria has a chance living off agriculture again?
I have no doubt in my mind about it. As I said, and I will continue to repeat, it's all a leadership problem. Once you have a failure of leadership, everything is affected. If you have a little boil on your face, you feel it all over your body. The problem of Nigeria is so gargantuan, but at the same time, it is very easy to tackle if the politicians will just make the necessary sacrifice. Without leadership, everything you are talking about, whether it's electricity, whether it's roads, whether it's water, whether it's healthcare, nothing is going to go away. You can see in the last 7 years how far we have come.
Yeah.
Before then, you can see between Yaradua and President Jonathan. So everything is a continuum. Once you repeat the same people, the same set of people with the same set of ideas, it continues. So the problem of Nigeria continues. Look, in the last 29 years, we have suffered untold hardship, and yet nobody has asked why. How come we are not able to get out of those challenges? It is because of the failure of leadership. So talking about agriculture, you cannot take it in isolation. Nothing exists in isolation. You must go to the root cause, and the root cause is the fact that the people you have today, once they grab power, I read somewhere yesterday someone say, let's grab power first, then we can share power later. So with that kind of mindset, who is going to pay attention to agriculture? Okay. Agriculture is not just about growing, crops. It is about what you do with the crops that you grow. Where does it end up? I was driving the other day through Maiduguri. I was driving through Ilorin. You will see mangoes. You will see fruits wasting away.
Well, let's talk about this.
Talking about the end product.
So let's talk about the current structure, the current arrangement as it is right now. I mean, inflation, food inflation specifically, has been rising by the day, and that has affected the inflation figures in general. So people go to market, and the 1,000 naira they could use to purchase a lot of other things about 2-3 years ago, now the value is reduced. With the current structure, with the current reality as it is, what would you have done differently to reverse this trend?
Yeah, as I said, you see, if you have the right people in the right places, it is not difficult to reverse these things. I'll give you an example. In 2015, when President Muhammadu Buhari had just been elected, a lot of things started moving quickly because a lot of people were under the impression that, hey, we have a new man in town, a no-nonsense man who will not allow us to continue business as usual. But a few weeks down the line, when they saw that, oh, the man was actually not really prepared, he was not ready, people started going back to their old ways. So when you talk about food, look, to transport food materials, let's say from the north to the south, where are the roads? I drove from Lagos to Ibadan, to Oyo, to Ogbomoso, to Ilorin just last week. I could not believe that we're in the 21st century. I looked at the trailers. That's why every day you see the trailers, they will crash into the bush, they will kill people, and you lose a lot of food items. By now, the money we're spending on bringing those trains moving from Lagos to Ibadan at snail speed, if we decided that we're going to concentrate on movement of goods alone, it would have eased a lot of things. The gridlock in our Papa, if we decided that we were going to use trains to move those goods, you will see that the gridlock will disappear. So when you talk about food, what do they do elsewhere? We don't need to reinvent the wheel. In America, in London, you must be able to process what you have produced. The farmers are producing on a daily basis. If you talk about Tropicana orange juice, it is fresh orange juice. It is a farm product.
Okay.
In Nigeria, we are drinking concentrates, chemicals on a daily basis that affects our health. When we have the best of oranges, the best of mangoes, the best of pineapples.
Well, there's so much ground to cover.
In Ghana, so let's leave in Ghana.
Pardon me, there's so much ground to cover, Chief.
Every day, yes.
There's so much ground to cover, and I know you're itching to take on some of this question. So we'll maybe leave agriculture for now and talk about that leadership question, which, I mean, I think affects all the other sectors. So at least when we're talking leadership, it's also affecting agriculture, the economy, and all of that. And I'd like to take an excerpt from an off-the-cuff remark you made on leadership. And this was an interview you had with Mike Awoyinfa. And you said that Nigeria is the only country I see where someone fails in a particular class and is insistent that he must be promoted to the next class. We must begin to ask questions. You said, what did you do with power? And I think it's also the same case for you. This is a sort of promotion. I mean, you've been in the private sector as a journalist, media mogul, and you're seeking some sort of promotion. And I ask you the same question. What did you do with power?
Well, the power that I have is the power of the media, is the power of public relations, is the power of interconnectivity. I have been a global brand for decades. So, and what I have done is to affect not just Nigeria, but Africa and the world. I have built new generations of leaders, new generation of artists, new generations of entrepreneurs, and new generation of technocrats. What I have done is to show that Africa is not synonymous with famine, with diseases, and with wars. Today, without being the president of Nigeria, I've been traveling around I've covered the whole 6 regions. What is the biggest problem facing Nigeria today? Disunity, insecurity. I am the only presidential aspirant today touching those things frontally. Going to Maiduguri, last week I walked in Maiduguri markets. People said it was suicidal. I said, no, we must go there. We must feel what the people are feeling. I went to see Sheikh Gumi in Kaduna. He told me, he said, Dele, Nigeria needs you. I went to Ilorin. The emir prayed fervently that God will make it happen, that we can have people like you who are not just interested in politics, but in developing the country. I went to see the emir of Kano. I went to see the Talakawas in Kano. Look, Nigeria is not difficult to govern. My appeal to our governors who are fighting is that they should come back together very quickly. Because right now, where this present government has left us is so dangerous. We're very close to breaking up. It's just God that has kept us together. I'm the only one reaching out to Sunday Igboho. I'm reaching out to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, speaking to his lawyers. Yesterday, I was in Jos to see Prophet El Buba. These were Christians who were feeling threatened in the north. I'm the only one doing it. While my co-contestants are gathering the delegates and thinking they can buy them with money and hijack Nigeria for themselves and their cronies. This is what I have done with power. I have spoken truth to power. Whether the person in government is my friend or not, I have spoken truth relentlessly. It has landed me in detention. It landed me in exile for 3 years. I couldn't come back to my dear beloved country. I never planned to live outside Nigeria. I was forced to go because I was speaking truth to power. I told President Buhari in 2015 what to do. I said, I advised President Jonathan free of charge. They didn't listen to me. We saw it ended. I said, sir, I'm going to do the same thing to you, and I've been doing it, speaking to him. They are still not listening, and we can see where we are today. So I've done my bit. I will continue to do my bit. I'm appealing to Nigerians not to allow politicians to use money to buy our country. No billionaire has ever governed in Nigeria. That reassures me. So with all the money that I saw, look, I'm in Abuja now. Go, you cannot even, to get a car here, I had to get a taxi. All cars have already been bought up by politicians. So that is where, so if you spend billions just to get a ticket, then spend billions to run an election, then what do you expect at the end of the day? So I'm the only one who is a fresh candidate, fortunately, who is both from South-South and from Southwest, and connecting powerfully with the Southeast. Last year, February, before Nnamdi Kanu was arrested, he said if we had leaders like Dele Momodu, we won't be doing what we were doing. Because I was able to tell my friends in the Southeast that, look, you have the brains of the Chinese, of the Japanese, of the Indians, of the Koreans combined. Any government that respects the Southeast will go far. There will be no Biafra if there is justice and equity. There will be no Yoruba nation if there is justice. And all the people talking about restructuring, they are talking about the injustices in Nigeria. And I'm happy that I'm in a position to reunite Nigeria, and I'm already doing it. You don't have to wait until you hijack power. People are saying, when we get power, then we'll start. No, that would be irresponsible of us. Okay. Anybody who has power, and I have media power, channels has media power. That's why I'm here. Use that power positively. All our young artists who are commanding heights all over the world, shutting down O2, shutting down Caesar's Palace in America. This is the time for them to come together and let us rescue our country.
But Chief, gratifying that you've begun to speak to the segment that I want you to address now. You had, thrown this hat into the ring before. I don't know, perhaps there are some lessons learned at that point that you may want to reference in this question, because I remember I belonged to an online community where you spoke about the approach of young people to you when you vied for office at the time. Do you want to speak to that community now, because they are the largest voting population, and yet they are the most untrusting of the system. Now, that's an irony of sorts. What's missing here, especially when we talk about the young people being, first of all, interested in Nigeria enough to go out and cast their votes for anyone at all? How are you bridging that conversation with young people?
there are various layers of disconnect between the young generation and the old generation. Number one, they were brought up to believe that nothing good can ever come out of Nigeria. They were brought up to distrust any politician. And that is why I am begging PDP that you have a unique opportunity. You have a man who is not too old and who is not too young, with a global appeal, not just in Nigeria, who is already interacting with world leaders, with presidents. You have that opportunity now. Don't restrict yourself to politicians, because the mistake is to think only politicians can do it. I'm happy that you know the demographics very well, that the younger population is the largest voting population. The reason why the youths don't go out to vote is that they cannot see any difference. So if PDP presents a man or a woman who they feel is just one of them, they will say, oh, the devil we know is better than the one we don't know, so why don't we just leave the APC to carry on, because there is no difference. Number two is that we need to reassure the young ones that we are very serious about changing Nigeria. So we need people who can come up with policy. You can see that everywhere I've been going, I've been presenting my books, because they contain all the problems of Nigeria and the solutions are profiled in the past. There is no politician doing that. Everybody is asking me, where am I going to get dollar? I must pay 40 million naira in the next couple of days, whether I like it or not. Otherwise, I'm automatically out of the race. So these are issues that bother the young ones. So my appeal to my young friends is that don't give up. You must begin to do what is being done elsewhere. In America, from $5, $10 that they contribute, they become stakeholders. If you don't invest in your future, then you are going nowhere. Imagine if a combination of Davido, Wizkid, Burna Boy, Olamide, all of them come together and they say, we throw our weight behind one candidate. A candidate who they know is not a career politician. A man who has accomplished so much in his private life. I can tell you it will go far. Imagine if the governors of PDP today, who say, especially the southern ones, who say they want power to come to the south, and they throw their weight behind a fresh candidate and make that sacrifice. Trust me, nobody can beat them.
And
if
I'm glad you have...
the history of elections in Nigeria. In 1979, President Shagari won election just by a tiny fraction, not more than 600,000 ahead of Awolowo, who was limited to the southwest. Whereas if Chief Awolowo and the Owele of Onitsha, Chief Nnamdi Azikiwe had combined, they would have defeated Shagari. So it's very easy for the young ones to use their numerical strength to support a Dele Momodu. Because if you sit back and say, oh, let him go and do it, it's impossible.
Okay, I'm glad you also touched on...
It's a risk they must take.
I'm glad you also touched on a very important point, which is the cost of this whole process. We'll also come to security, which is a big topic today, but I just wanted you to speak to, 40 million naira, for example, to pick up a form in the PDP. And you sound as though, you will depend on contributions. I've seen some of your posts online, where you've appreciated people for sending in, varying amounts and all of that. And I'm wondering, if your ambition or your mission, as you have called it, is dependent on contributions, and I don't know how forthcoming that can be. What happens, because you have to raise 40 million naira for the form, the whole process? Some say it cost you 2 billion naira. I recall that when you were in Labour Party, there was that controversy, that debate, before you had to leave, about how much had to be brought for the whole process. So what happens, really, if you're not able to meet up with that financial cost to go the whole hog?
Oh, I can tell you that you should salute my audacity. You should salute my effrontery to challenge the status quo. The 40 million will be met. My young friends are contributing. I am grateful to those who contributed 500 naira. I'm sure if they had more, I don't know these guys, We're going to publish their names, those who donated 1,000 naira, and I can tell you that we're meeting that target, and it will be paid in full, and the whole world will see that we are serious about what we are doing. You see, the problem is that a lot of Nigerians suffer from what Paulo Freire, the Brazilian author, in his book, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, called, you see, the oppressive man respects only his oppressor. We have been so oppressed that we believe that nothing good can come out of any other person. So when you talk defensively, oh, Dele, where is he going to find the money? But I'm telling you, we're changing the narrative. I'm so excited that we're going to pay that 40 million. Before the expiry date, you will hear about it. And the whole world will hear about it, and they will know that Nigerians are now more serious than ever. It is for our politicians to step aside. And if they refuse to step aside, we must retire them. We must retire our yesterday. It's part of our slogans.
But Chief, why don't you challenge
Nigeria for all? Anybody,
but pardon me, Chief, why don't you challenge the PDP?
That's what we do.
Pardon me, why don't you challenge your party? Say, I mean, 40 million naira. Isn't that a bit too much? Especially if you want to have more people like you in the race. I imagine they see 40 million and they're scared because, I mean, we know what the current economy says. So why not challenge your party and say, can we bring this down so we can open the field to more people?
No. You see, I'm not going to challenge them because the next thing you are going to get, even from the people you expect to understand, is that, oh, so when you knew you didn't have money, why did you go into the race? We want to show them that no man should spend his own personal hard work and sweat on politics. All of us must be participants, we must be partakers, we must be investors in our future. Okay. And I am assuring you that we will get it. The first lesson I learned the last time was that we were operating from a fringe local political party that did not have national appeal. Now I'm in PDP. So that is going to change. And I also want to tell you what I learned the last time. Some people brought money during our primaries overnight. I was busy distributing 2 copies of ovation to the rooms of every delegate. You will not believe it. Especially the northern delegates. I doffed my hat to them. I did not lose a single vote from them. They said, no, this man looks like a man of integrity. And I've been going around the north. And that is, they are opening doors to me that, okay, if it's a Dele Momodu, maybe there is hope for Nigeria. Let me tell you, a lot of people are tired. Everywhere I go, in the airports, they are tired. The biggest of the biggest. I've interacted with the Dangotes, with the Adenugas, with everybody is bleeding. The cost of doing business, whenever I talk to Femi Otedola, you'll be shocked about the complaints galore, about how difficult it is even to manage some of these things. So you can see, I've been going everywhere. Okay. I know that people are afraid of speaking to government because they know our government can be vindictive.
Well, Chief, yes, there are always...
Trust me, we are working behind the scene. There
are so many things, always so many things to discuss, you know, when we're talking about leadership recruitment in Nigeria. The most prominent of the issues, you've spoken to some of them, would be security or a lack of it. Well, we don't have so much time now, but if you can at least try to look at shortfalls, I mean, in the space, and how you intend to break it. Fast forward into May 29, for instance. What would be the first steps you or any president should take to checkmate the security challenges we have on our hands?
The first thing is there must be justice and equity. When people are disgruntled, they will do anything.
And how do you intend to do that?
Sheikh Gumi, we're talking.
How do you intend to do that?
We're talking. Yeah, that's what I'm telling you, that the first thing is to tackle the issue of lack of unity. People are disgruntled. People are angry. When people are angry, they will do anything. People are frustrated. No jobs, no employment. The education has collapsed. Students spend more time at home than in their schools. I'm reaching out to ASU already. I'm not the president of Nigeria. I'm talking to Sheikh Gumi in Kaduna. I'm talking to Sunday Igboho in the Southwest. I'm talking to the people of Namdi. You must talk to everybody. Every Nigerian must be contacted. Every Nigerian must be protected. All this issue of you are just sharing power and sharing money must end. I am appealing to the PDP governors. God has deposited a Dele Momodu in your midst. I'm the only one now from the South-South who is also from the Southwest. There is nowhere Tinubu can enter in the Southwest that I cannot sleep in the place. There is nowhere. There is nowhere in the entire Nigeria. When I went to Maiduguri, where I slept was in the home of an APC chieftain, Kashim Ibrahim Imam. He's been my friend of decades. You need a Nigerian who can douse the tension in Nigeria. The tension is so much that, look, you can almost cut it with blade. So that is the problem. We must do something urgently by changing the leadership. If you don't change the leadership and you bring the same old emperors to come back, they are going to come and live like emperors. But the time has come for us to retire them if they will not retire honorably. Thank you, sir.
Chief Dele Momodu, publisher Ovation Magazine International and presidential aspirant on the platform of the People's Democratic Party. Thank you so much for being a part of our conversation this morning.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, just a quick one now. We have this fact that young men and women said to be staff of the Edo State Sports Commission have barricaded the entrance to the Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium in Benin City, the Edo State capital, as well as the Stadium Road, where the stadium is situated. There you have it on your screen. Their complaint is that the state government allegedly sacked 513 workers of the commission without a clear reason. Well, this is perhaps already speaking to someone to respond quickly.
Absolutely. So this is news just in, coming in from Edo State. You see, Sports Commission, I imagine staff of the Sports Commission, young men and women, who have barricaded the entrance to Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium. And they are alleging and complaining that the state government sacked 513 workers of the commission without a clear reason. So, as you said, we expect to hear from the government on this one.
Well, most certainly your contributions have also come in, but unfortunately we're unable to take so many of them this morning. But most certainly we will not let them go without addressing them one way or the other sometime later. Thanks so much for being a part of the program this morning, and have a wonderful day. I'm Ayo Makinde.
As you always say, make Nigeria great every day. I'm Kayode Okikele. Goodbye.